Hello and welcome back to the table. We are talking to Brenda Patterson, who, like a lot of us, struggles with stress eating. She's looking for some healthy strategies to use when that emotional eating monster starts to kick in. And joining us now is a licensed clinical social worker, Miranda Campbell, who says stress eating is something that really impacts a lot of women and men and children, right? This is something that, we all struggle with in some form or fashion, right?
Yeah, it's very common. And so I'm so inspired by you sharing your story here today.
Thank you.
So how do we know, right? Because sometimes you just find yourself just mindlessly eating, plowing through a bag of chips.
Yes.
And you weren't even hungry, but that taste did something. What is the taste and the act of food doing that calms us?
Well, it's usually before you'll know, if the hunger came on suddenly, and all of a sudden, because natural hunger, like physical hunger, comes on gradually. But if you're hungry to fill an emotional need, it'll be sudden and it'll be targeted. So,
What do you mean by targeted?
It'll be like a specific food that you just have to have and nothing else will do. So for me, that'll be Doritos. Yours, you said cashew ice cream.
Cashew ice cream.
So
Interesting.
yeah, it'll
mine
be
potato chips as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. But you can say, okay, I'm just not going to eat it, right? Because you can plow through any number of things, ice cream, the chips, any snacks, and be several calories in, and then you instantly have regret, and then you feel even worse.
Yeah, It's not that simple. If it was mind over matter, I think this probably wouldn't be an issue that we're talking about. Obviously, you're so resilient, and it's more of being able to sit with the tough emotions. And it's even more difficult when they're compiled on. It's usually not just one stressor, it's the multiple stressors all at once. And I know we saw that a lot during COVID. So we had COVID and then we had things like losing our sisters or losing our parents and things. So.
And I think it's important to point out that stress eating sometimes is not eating at all, right? You may go long periods of time and realize, okay, I'm hungry, and you haven't eaten because the stresses cost your appetite.
Yes. Definitely. So in that case, in both cases, it's acting the opposite of the urge. And so sometimes when we're sad or when we're anxious, we don't have the energy to do the things that will help us get better. And so just knowing that, just pushing through as best you can, but really talking to a licensed therapist to help you get to the root of the emotion that you're feeding with the emotional eating.
Yeah, and I feel like you have such a grasp on what the issue is.
Yes.
Do you feel like you're a little bit more cognizant?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I'm not going to plow through this pint of cashew ice cream, which is just so interesting to me. I'm not going to. Do you feel like you're better about it now?
I am, because during COVID, I taught myself how to become a vegan, more plant-based, more than vegan. But the vegan food itself was a problem because it was equally carb heavy or sugar heavy as regular food. So I had to do a little studying and researching to find out, well, why am I still gaining weight? I'm eating vegan food.
Right.
And it just did not work.
When it's said and done, food, vegan, vegetarian, full-fledged meat eating, all of it can be an issue if we're not managing the intake, right?
Definitely.
And I know you've got some strategies and advice that you offer. Let's talk about where people can start when you recognize it's time to stop the stress eating.
Yeah, so I made a little acronym. It's called HAM.
I see what you did there.
So we want to know our hunger cues. So even if we're just ranking our hunger before we begin eating on a scale from 0 to 5 or 0 to 10 to make a more informed choice, we want to be mindful and present. Then the A is for just being aware. What emotion am I trying to fill by eating? And so we're more likely to overeat if we're eating for the emotion, because the emotions are insatiable.
Yeah.
And then the M is for meeting the need. And so we can do that through these three things. And so learning how to sit with your emotion, learning how to manage it through social life, delaying the gratification. Can I try this new coping skill? Because it's not always about stopping. It may be inserting something different, an alternative, before I give in to the eating.
And then you say engage socially. How so? Because sometimes I feel like some of the extra eating I do is because we are in a social environment. I wasn't
Right.
hungry. I just wanted to hang out with the girls.
Right.
And then we get to talking about stuff and you're like, I'll have a third, whatever. It is.
That's very true, but like in our social networks, that's where we get reassurance when we're stressed. That's where someone can speak life into our self-doubt or into our feelings of loneliness or a void, or our kids getting on our nerves, and like someone else to relate to us.
Yeah, yeah. And you say that's such a good point. Yeah, because I'm thinking about the benefits of the brunch as well. And creating a space to feel, just to feel whatever it is, right? Explain.
Well, sometimes we think like if I feel this emotion, I'll melt. I won't be able to take it. I won't be able to stop crying. And that's not necessarily true. Maybe you could do it in building up in small increments. I think it's a muscle. In therapy, they definitely, or we, not they, we teach our clients how to do that early on so that they can get to the root and they don't need us anymore.
Right. So it's walking away from sort of the quick solution, which is standing in front of the fridge and figuring out what am I going to eat.
It's a temporary fix.
As opposed to just going out for the walk and maybe just sitting in that, right? Or walking in
And if
that.
you still decide to eat. But at the same time, that's not going to be my first go-to. That's an over-reliance on a coping skill that isn't effective at targeting the root of the issue. But we all need to eat, so please eat.
Please eat. Right. We're not saying stop eating.
Yeah.
None of us are saying that. All right. Coming up, we're going to hear from a dietitian, a nutritionist, Jelaine Jones. She's going to break down how we can satisfy our biggest cravings without eating the junk food and the other things that we turn to when we are in stress. Stay with us. Conversation continues when we return.